Good morning, everybody. This is Martin John, and we are here to talk about the Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching is an ancient text written in the 6th century BC, and we use it on this show sort of as an oracle. We look at what you got going on in your life, and then we pick a number between 1 and 81. So the Tao Te Ching is made up of 81 verses, presumably written by a guy, Lao Tzu, in the 6th century BC. And it has been in our consciousness for quite some time. And so when we pick a number knowingly. We pick a number in, as a deep knowing about what we need to know, what we need to be able to hear, how we can experience this moment, how we can. What information do we need to be able to grow into who we're going to become? So thank you guys for joining me. I'm here every day, 6 a.m. Central Time. So this time, whatever time zone you find yourself in, I usually start right around now every day, and we talk about the Tao Te Ching. So I'm going to go ahead and pick a random number this morning, and I came up with number 56. 56 is entitled "Learn to Be Silent." I love reading when I pick this one, "Learn to Be Silent." It's always funny because I come on the show and talk. Right, that's what I do. I come on and I talk about the Tao Te Ching, and so when I'm looking at like the title of number 56, "Learn to Be Silent." I always the thought crosses my mind. Is this something that I no longer need to do? Right? Is the Tao of the day something that I can step away from? Is something that I'm, is that coming to an end? It always comes to mind because things need to be able to change and shift and grow and do all the things that they're going to do. And I want them to do that naturally. And so when I read the title, "Learn to Be Silent," it's not like I'm not silent in other areas of my life, but I'm always saying, is this the time? Is this something I need to consider? Do I need to consider, I've been doing Tao of the Day here for, I'm moving into my 6th year doing that here on this app. Noom Vibe hasn't been around that long, but I started on Wisdom way back in the day, and I've been doing this show for quite some time. Love doing it, love being able to introduce the Tao to people and some of the ideas that are here. Again, this is a very, this is different than a lot of the guided work that we have in our lives today. So much of that is about will and masculine energy and acting upon things, whereas the Tao says, be still. The Tao says, let things happen, and they will happen regularly, and you will benefit from those things happening, even if it doesn't necessarily look that way. And so either way, 56 is entitled "Learn to Be Silent." And it reads, "Those who know aren't drawn to speak. Those who don't are compelled to. Can you close your senses and your mouth? Can you be guided by the empty void? From there, meditate in silence. Blunt your sarcasm and wit. Simplify your struggle. Shade your brilliance. Be at one with the dust. This is primal existence. Be like the master. She is uninspired to acquire fame, yet honors are bestowed upon her. She is possessed by no one and possesses no one, yet is always loved by many. She is immune to both attraction and repulsion, receptive to both profit and loss. She is noble and held in high esteem by all beings." It's interesting when I read these and I read the last line. She is noble and held in high esteem by all beings. And sometimes I get to that last line and I'm like, how did we get here? That's the question. When I talk about these verses, they're so much like riddles. You have to kind of dissect them a little bit. You have to be able to take them apart. If you try and understand it as a whole, it's sort of too much. It's kind of like when you try and keep notes in your head about something, and then once you start writing it down and like writing some of your notes closer to other notes, and you start to build this sort of Venn diagram, like laying out the things that overlap and don't overlap, and you start to see patterns. Once you start to write it out, once you start to draw it out, once you start to, be able to better visualize what you're doing. They say indigenous people don't count over 5. Like indigenous languages, like ancient indigenous languages never had numbers over 5 because they didn't need them. And once you have more than 5 things, like you can't keep track. It becomes, and I don't know if 5 was the number. It's like they don't have a high number. They could sit down and create those numbers, right? You can have another and another and another, right? That's what we did with our numbers, right? Like at 10 and then 11 and then 20 and then 100. You just keep adding numbers. They just keep getting bigger and bigger. But at some point, it's too much. It's too much to keep it all in your head. You have to write it down. You have to keep track in some way. And when we read these verses of the Tao, that happens, right? So we start with those who know aren't drawn to speak. Those who don't know are compelled to speak, right? Are compelled to. So, and then in the end, we have this master who is noble and held in high esteem by all beings. To be able to connect those two, we have to understand what the master is like. Be like the master. She is uninspired. She's uninspired to acquire fame, yet honors are bestowed upon her. Okay, when we look at that with the with the first line, those who know aren't drawn to speak. Those who don't know are compelled to. She's uninspired to acquire fame. We look out in the world today at those who are looking to acquire fame, and they speak a lot, right? They're on social media. They're constantly telling you what to do, how to be. They're telling you what they know, all of these things. But the master's uninspired to acquire fame, and so she doesn't speak. So she's probably not on social media. She's probably not going out trying to be known. She's probably just quietly going about her business. There's no reason to speak because she's not drawn to speak. She knows that everything is more than it seems. And then she is possessed by no one and possesses no one, yet is always loved by many. So this is another point about the master. She possesses no one and possesses. She is possessed by no one and possesses no one. She allows people to be who they are. She doesn't try and control them. And she doesn't. So once again, she doesn't need to speak. She's not drawn to speak. She's not drawn to control anybody. And she's not possessed by anyone. So she doesn't need to tell other people what she's doing and why she's doing it. She doesn't owe them anything. If they want to try and possess her, good luck. Like, they're well within their right to try and possess the master. They're well within their right to try and possess you. People are well within their right to try and get you to live under their influence. You're never going to find yourself in a place in which you will not be the victim of somebody wanting to possess you in one way or another, wanting to possess your mind, wanting to possess your body, wanting to possess your life, wanting to possess your money, wanting to possess there's always going to be someone wanting to possess you. But then they're well within their right to do that. It's within your right to go. Now, it's not legal, let's say, right? But people want to benefit in those ways sometimes, right? Whether it's a company or an individual who's trying to get you to purchase their services or whatever, right? Like what they're trying to do is manipulate your mind and possess a part of it so that they can get you to do what they want to do. And so, again, this starts with learn to be silent. Those who know aren't drawn to speak. Those who don't know are compelled to. If you don't know yourself, you're compelled to try and possess others. You're compelled to try and prove that you're worthy. You're compelled to try and speak, to be told that you have value. But you do have value. But we have to know that we have value. And when we know, those who know aren't drawn to speak. When you know you are the value in the world, when you know that your actions are innocent because you know yourself, then you can go out into the world and act. And if somebody has something to say about it, of course they do. They have every right in the world to say something about it. But if you know what you're doing is good, whatever they have to say about it isn't going to matter. And then so, this is why the master is uninspired to acquire fame, yet honors are bestowed upon her. Maybe not by those people. Maybe not by the person who's trying to possess you, who wants something from you. But honors are still coming your way. She's possessed by no one and possesses no one, yet is always loved by many. Because she doesn't possess. But then not being possessed by others, not allowing yourself to be a victim to other people's desires, often makes people upset with you. Well, if that upsets you, right, they're going to be upset with you because they can't instill their will upon you. And if you allow that to fall away, if you allow that to just be the case where, oh yeah, they're not happy because I'm not weak. That's okay. Of course they're not happy because I'm not weak. They want me to be weak. They want me to give up myself in favor of them, but I'm not going to do that. Right? When we get to that place, like, we know that we're the valuable thing. So we aren't drawn to speak. We don't even have to defend it because we know it. We know it in our heart. We know it in our soul, right? That we're valuable. So if you have a complaint against me, I don't have to take that seriously. Of course, if I'm doing a job, if I'm trying to do, like there's other places where, we're going to be more susceptible to wanting that criticism. And if the criticism does make us think twice, well, then maybe we have to think about that. Maybe we have to look at it. And maybe we don't have to stand so firm on our, and maybe we can bring a little humility into the mix and say, I wonder why it felt so bad when they said that. I wonder what is that pointing at within me? Is that something that I can address in my own life? So she is possessed by no one and possesses no one. And that means that nobody's will is being pushed onto another. And that in and of itself is why you would be loved by many. It doesn't say, and yet is loved by everyone. It says loved by many, right? Some of the people that you don't allow to possess you are going to not like you. They're going to have a bug up their butt about you not allowing them to possess you. They've possessed so many other people, and why aren't you susceptible to my wiles? And then it says she is immune to both attraction and repulsion, receptive to both profit and loss. When it says she is immune to both attraction and repulsion, if someone is attracted to you, do you pay attention more? And if someone is repulsed by you, do you want to convince them that you're not repulsive? does their reaction to you in one way or another affect you and make you act differently? Because if it does, then we can go back to that first line. Maybe you don't know. Because those who know aren't drawn to speak. You don't have to speak if someone is attracted to you. They're attracted to you because you're beautiful. Of course you're beautiful. Everyone's attracted to you. And of course they're repulsed by me. I don't have to take your idea, someone else's idea of who I am, and make it personal. They're only seeing themselves. And when we can know that, we don't have anything to say. We don't have to defend ourselves from their repulsion or inject anything into their attraction. We can allow them to have the experience they're having and trust that that experience is the thing that they need to have. It has nothing to do with me. And if I am affected by it, if I'm hurt by it, if I'm butthurt by your repulsion of me, if I'm butthurt by your, if I feel like I'm on a pedestal because I'm attracted, that I've gained your attraction, those are things I get to look at. Because when I get to look at that, I'm like, of course I'm attractive. Why would I be so impressed when someone was attracted to me? Of course, I'm also repulsive to some because I do things differently. Why would I be offended by that? They see me as repulsive. That's quite all right. I don't have to impress everybody. And then it says receptive to both profit and loss. We have to be receptive to the wins and the losses because it's all part of this journey, right? The attractions and the repulsions, the profits and the losses, and the ups and the downs. It's all part of it. And when we can get to a place where we can simply be and not have to prove ourselves, right? That's when we know that we're not being drawn to speak. When we're trying to prove that we're valuable, well, what do you have to prove if you know you're valuable? If you go out in the world and know you're valuable, then there's nothing to prove. And if someone says you're not valuable, the moment you would say something to that exposes the cracks in your story that you're valuable because you don't actually believe it. But if you know how beautiful you are and someone calls you ugly, you wouldn't even register it. The story of Mamdani from New York, he was getting on a bicycle and someone called him a communist, and his response was, "It's pronounced cyclist." And he's being witty, but also he's unmoved by the comment that he was called a communist. He's not affected by it. I mean, I'm not trying to say Mamdani is a master or anything. I don't know anything about the man, but that's just coming to mind, right? Now, in his speaking, right, can we move to this and say, oh, well, instead of those who know aren't drawn to speak, those who don't know are compelled to. Was he compelled to speak? Does he not know? It's fine. But what a wonderful response either way, right? What a wonderful response where it's I'm unmoved by your judgment. And that's why it says, can you close your senses and your mouth? Can you be guided by the empty void? Knowing yourself, knowing that you are too of God, or you are too of the universe, and you are part of this. There is stardust in your body. There is millennia, there's millions and millions of years that your cells are carrying millions and millions of years of education, of knowledge, of power, of when you can recognize your beauty and and that which you are embracing in the world, and that role that you're playing in the totality of everything, when you can see that, you are not going to be marred by someone calling you anything, or even physically doing anything to you. Like that's what really kind of gets at the core of everything that's in the Tao, right? And there's this one section that we haven't really looked at yet. So we got those who know aren't drawn to speak. Those who don't know are compelled to. And we're covering all that very well. Can you close your senses and your mouth? Can you be guided by the empty void? Can you be guided by that which is ultimately guiding you? And that's the empty void, rather than being guided by other people's words, frustrations, other people's judgments, other people's ideas. Can you be guided by the emptiness that is you, like everything that you are, without living under the influence of all that is around you? And it says, from there, meditate in silence. So from that space of being able to be guided by what you are, right, without the influence of others, meditate in silence. Blunt your sarcasm and wit. Simplify your struggles. Shade your brilliance. Be at one with the dust. This is primal existence. Primal existence comes back to not thinking about what other people are thinking, being what you are at this moment. There are a couple verses that talk about being at one with the dust, or as common as grass, like being that, not trying to be special, not because when you're special, you have to prove you're special. And as you prove you're special, you're speaking and you're doing all of this work, and you can't just be guided by the emptiness. You have to be guided by a thing, that's specialness. And if somebody doesn't think you're special because they don't appreciate what you do, like famous people are famous because they do things that many, many people like they're out there in, like in movies or something, and lots of people know their name. Hey, Melissa, how are you? Lots of people know your name. Sweet Melissa.
Well, thank you for knowing my name and recognizing that, it's all stupid. I think I'm stupid, but not everybody does. And, I was really resonating with what you were saying, and it was making me think back about that conference that I had recently with the parents that were coming at me, and the fact that I just sat there and let them say what they wanted to say and didn't feel the need to defend myself. I did at one point when the mothers told me what to do. I was very kind. And I said, please speak to me like that. I'm not telling you what to do. And, that is a big shift for me. And, we were talking about yesterday how I was like feeling different, but I wasn't exactly sure how. And in the past, people pleasing was a big deal for me. But, you kind of hit the nail on the head when you said, I know my value now. And I don't need to tell others what my value is. And, in that conference, I was thinking that. And something inside me said, shut up, Melissa. You don't need to tell them how valuable you are. You don't need to defend yourself. So I was really appreciative that you reminded me of that today. I'm supposed to have a conference today with a parent that wasn't able to meet during parent conferences. And this parent's also a principal. But you know what? It's all stupid, Martin. John, who gives a shit? I know that I'm a good teacher. I know that I love her daughter. I know that I'm doing a good job with those kids. And all the rest of it is just bullshit,
Yeah. And not only do you know that, like, you don't have to prove it, like she doesn't, she or they or he or whatever, whoever doesn't have to see your value in order for you to still have it. No. And I think that's the thing that we've really lost in our current stage of development. And I think it's like, I have something, I need you to see it in order for it to be valid. And that's not how it works. No. You have to see it.
Exactly.
And that gives it validity. Now, if someone else doesn't see it and that makes you question it, well, that's on you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. And it was for quite a while something that I struggled with, you know, and wanting others to see me as beautiful. But I had to see myself as beautiful first.
It starts there, man. Like, it's because that, you know, like we talk about the idea of, like, you know, you show people how to treat you and stuff like that. But
exactly.
When you know that you're beautiful, even if there's nothing that you're doing that's showing somebody how to treat you as if you're beautiful, it's in the ether. Like, you're emulating this deep in your body, and we're all one. And so when your cells vibrate at that frequency, let's say, you know, to loving yourself, people are going to perk up and pay attention. Now, you're also going to get repulsion, because people hate themselves so much because they are being so overly taxed that when they see somebody happy, they can't but resist, because it is so foreign. It is so... and you are just reminding them of everything that they've thrown away. And that's why we have to be open to both attraction and repulsion. Because by being open to have somebody feel repulsed by us allows them to see themselves and allows them to see who they are. Now, if it affects us, we have to be able to step back and learn our experience and learn our lessons. But if we love ourselves and that hurts someone else, we have to allow that to happen. And we can't, you know, the Tao says, don't make light of what is important to others. And it's true that sometimes it's important to somebody to be repulsed by us because they need to see themselves. And it's not our job to be able to try and tell them what is the right way to do that. But when they do feel that way, it's not for us to say is right or wrong. We just sort of, okay, good.
I actually said that to one of the kids yesterday. I was like, oh, okay, good. And just went on about with what I was talking about. But, you know.
That's good. It's a good response. I mean, it works so well.
But there have been a lot of times where I didn't say, okay, good. But, you know, I think that I was just thinking about when you were talking about someone that originally found me as beautiful and very attractive and then said that I was batshit crazy. And I'm like, but, you know, I was thinking about what you said about the mirror. You know, I was mirroring for him his own insecurities, you know, and he saw that silly, fun-loving side of me as, you know, what he didn't like about himself, I guess. I don't know. But
well, it's you see different things. Know? Yeah. We are often attracted to people that show us a part of ourselves that we are not in touch with and we want to be in touch with. Yeah. And then when we get closer to that, what often happens is we don't like that part of ourselves. So although it's attractive, it also is something because we don't know how to do it ourselves. We don't know like I don't know, for myself, you know, in getting in relationships and stuff, sometimes I'll be attracted to somebody that is more popular. You know, because I never felt like I was popular, and they are cool kids, right? And so I'll get attracted to the cool kid, and because I was always, you know, like kind of on the outside, a dork, a nerd, whatever, all those things, and so but I know that there's a cool kid inside of me. Now as an adult, I'm definitely a cool kid. You know what I mean? So
you don't have to tell me. I know that, Martin John.
But there were times when I was younger where it was just like I just wanted to be with somebody that had that in them. And then I realized that I wasn't that way, and I judged those people as shallow, so I thought those women were shallow, and I would easily be able to go into an argument and say, well, you're shallow. But that's my own judgment about myself. And that's because the thing that I want, I protected myself by judging it because I wasn't seeing it play out in my life. And that's why relationships are always these tumultuous things, or they can be, because it's like, I see something in you that I have, but I haven't, practiced in my own life. And then when I get upset with you, or when I get triggered by you, or when I get triggered by that which you are, by that popularness in you, then I can revert to the judgment. And I already have that in my pocket because that was the thing that I was suppressing within my own self.
Yeah, it's great when we, like you said, learn our own value and we don't let people steal our joy from us, you know?
Yeah. Do you got a number?
I do. 43.
43. Let's hit it up. Let's see, 43. Oh, be silent and learn. Well, it's interesting because we just read learn to be silent. Which is 56. So there's a lot of silence going on today.
Right? Silence is an important thing.
It is. It is very important. And especially if you're going into a parent-teacher conference today. The flexible will outlast the rigid. The gentle will outlast the hard. Tao, which has no structure, has penetrated all, even that which has no space to enter. Through this, I see that unforced action and silence are the only path to completeness. Action free of expectation and desire. This is the lesson of the nature of things. Listen to your nature. Be silent and learn. The line, listen to your nature, right? That's kind of like a demand, right? It's like, you do this. Just listen to your nature. And when I was talking to Dio yesterday, I was really kind of addressing this idea of listen to your nature, which is, do you like that you're doing this? You know, that is at the core of so much of how I interpret the Tao. It's very much like you're having an experience. Don't think about the actions. Don't think about you being a victim. Don't think about like what's going on. But do you like the actions that you're taking? And that's when you listen to your nature, because your nature is telling you, yes, I like this, or actually I don't like this. And from moment to moment, that can shift. You can be like, oh, I like watching this program. And then 3 minutes later, you could be like, actually, I don't like that it's this loud. Let me turn it down. Then a couple moments later, you're like, actually, I don't like that I'm sitting on the couch anymore. Now, I can continue doing things, but the things that maybe I don't like that I'm doing. But I could be in conversation with those things all the time. And that's me sort of listening to my nature, being flexible, allowing myself to stay there if I want, or listen to like the fact that I don't like that I'm doing this, and I can stop, like with the Oreo cookie, I can continue eating it, or I can stop. Either way, it doesn't matter. But do I have the ability to do that? And that's that unforced action. I'm not forcing it. I'm just recognizing it and then doing a thing. Now, all the shoulds that I tell myself, oh, I should get this done, or I should do that. That puts pressure on from the outside and external forces, external ideas, external people, our job, our family, all of those sorts of things. But action free of expectation and desire. It's like, do I like this? Well, if I stop doing this, I'm going to do this, this, and that. And it's just like, wait a minute. Like, let's not go into the story. Let's not have the expectation or the desire or the fear. And I can just allow myself to be present. Go on.
No, you exactly just said what I was going to say. It makes me think of present moment awareness, Mm-hmm. And that when you do have that action and you are free of expectation and desire and you're just being in the present moment. And that's something we kind of touched on yesterday. We didn't say the words present moment awareness, right. But we talked about how I had been so drawn to you and Dr. Rao lately. And I think that's because you guys are helping me to learn this lesson that it is about being in the present moment, because all the rest, like I said to you yesterday, is stupid, and I've been caught up in the stupid manifestation BS for so long. You know, so it's nice to find, and it doesn't always happen. I can't, say that it's always going to be, because I'm sure there will be times where expectation and desire will pop up. But, I'm at a point where I have to remind myself, and that's something that Dr. Rao taught me, that I'm not my thoughts and that I'm not my body. And the more that I can remind myself of that and be, and, just like be silent, and just like embrace the fact that I have a 2-hour rain day today, like a rain delay, okay, cool. Thanks. I'm cool with that, Right.
So. And if you, like how many people can't embrace the moment and have a plan? Oh, but my plan was, and they can't even enjoy the 2-hour rain delay, because they're too in their head, they're too rigid. And all of that rigidness takes up your energy. And that's why the flexible will outlast the rigid and the gentle will outlast the hard. You continue through your flexibility.
Well, as always, my friend, I appreciate you. I thank you. And I don't know if it's raining there, but I hope you stay nice and dry and warm and safe and have a great day.
Thank you. Yeah, we're sitting on like 10 inches of snow. So
you got what they were saying we were going to get. Oh, it went to you instead of me. Okay.
Yes.
Although we weren't calling for 10 inches.
Well, we got it. And I got another like inch and a half last night. So it was, I'll take care of that when I come home tonight or tomorrow. I think we're going to be taking a break for the next couple of days on the mosaic. It's ready to get moved. So life is easy. How's it going, JK?
How are you?
I'm well. Life is easy.
That's good. That's good to hear. I don't remember what I was thinking, to be honest. So,
good for you.
I don't know. So,
well, I gotta say, not like it's so often that, like I don't remember what I've said or what I'm saying or what and I contribute that and I look at that and as a good thing. I don't remember things, and just like we were talking with Melissa, I chalk that up to living in the present moment. I don't like I'm here right now wanting to say something, and then I act in order to say that thing, but I don't remember the thing that I wanted to say when I get the chance to say it. Well, maybe it no longer needs to be said, so it's gone. Maybe it does need to be said and it'll come up at some point or whatever. But if it's gone, it's gone. And I remember there were times when I was doing my Recover Yourself podcast and stuff, and it would be like, oh, I wanted to say something and I'm taking notes and and then I stopped doing that. And I was just like, well, if it sticks, it sticks. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'll edit it out and it'll be fine. Mm-hmm. But like being able to just trust what needs to be said. Say what is to be said and no more. And sometimes saying what needs to be said is just having the thought that this needs to be said and never being able to say it. That's okay too.
I agree. Yeah, just letting go. That's the attachment. It's a closed system attachment, it's just always looping. And
Yeah.
that's what we hold on to, but it's empty, right? Because there's only so many possibilities that can happen in a closed system. It gets you keep trying to, I don't know, you just keep trying to, make something that's not there. And when that's your thinking and, all that stuff, that attachment. And that's what I was thinking earlier today about, integration. And when you integrate, it's so different than that attachment because you're not really holding on to anything. You're just allowing it to sit and kind of see where the flavor ends up. You have a soup on the cooker and you're letting it just simmer. And you don't really hold on to anything in particular. And then you apply it. And that's where it all kind of becomes back. That separate becomes that oneness again. And you integrate it into your being as opposed to attach. It's not an external regulator. I think about, like babies when they're premature, they can't regulate their own temperature. So that skin to skin is so important. It brings them it helps them learn. But you've got to be able to let go of that at some point because you can't stay attached to your mom as a 6-year-old, regulating the temperature. You're going to you can't become dependent on it. And I think that's just a really interesting concept about, learning and where we can go with that learning when we hold on to the ideas too tightly. Because then you don't allow change, right? You're not letting anything in. You're not open to receiving this new information that actually, so you've got this chaos going on. And it's not even chaos. It's just, I guess, like you said yesterday, entropy. That's it. It increases. Anyway.
Yeah. You have a number today.
I don't. I'll have you pick one if you don't mind, please.
30. Tao does not dominate. Governing in any capacity when led by Tao doesn't use force to gain power. Every force applied will suffer an equal counterforce, so violence, however it is intended, will always rebound upon itself. Where armies march, briers grow, and in their wake follows hunger and villainy. Skillful in what she does, the master achieves her goal and stops, neither forcing nor manipulating further. She knows that dominating goes counter to Tao, and whatever opposes Tao will certainly die early. There are phrases that I used when I was making this that, try to open up people's ideas of how to read these verses, and keep the mystery of the riddle in place. And in this line, in any capacity, right? Governing in any capacity when led by Tao doesn't use force to gain power. So we could get rid of in any capacity when led by Tao and be governing doesn't use force to gain power. But we know that that's not true. Right? Governing absolutely uses force to gain power. And we could talk about that like politics, and we can talk about that in all sorts of manner. But we govern all sorts of things. We govern our schedules. We govern our diets. We govern our relationships. We govern our thoughts. And so in any capacity can engage in all of that, right? We govern our careers. We govern our social interactions, whatever. But when it's led by Tao, it doesn't use force to gain power. How often do we try and force that which we govern? Whether it's our diet or whether it's our schedules or whether it's governing our image, governing our identity as other people see it. And how often do we have expectations of how we want that to turn out and then use force in order to get it there? right? Manipulating others, manipulating the ideas that other people have, manipulating how we're being seen. And then it kind of goes into this. So violence, however it is intended, and now violence is a stand-in for everything.
Mm.
So no matter what you intend, what you're doing will rebound upon itself. And some things we want to rebound upon itself, like love, respect, humility, understanding, all of those things, right? So when we can be understanding to our own thoughts when our thoughts sort of wander, right? Like, so for me, there was a time when I was getting sober, where the thought of alcohol, drinking, vodka or whatever, would come into my mind, and I would want to rip it right out of my head, right? I would want to, and I would force it down into my body, because I wouldn't want to have had that thought, because I know if I have that thought, it's going to slowly like leak into other parts of my body, making me more susceptible to using at some point. So that can be considered that violence, right? So resistance, however it is intended, will always rebound upon itself. And so that resistance takes up energy, so I can no longer resist, and then that I'm going to be overtaken by that resistance at some point and drink, and that would be the fear. And that's really kind of how because I approach this from a lot of this under the influence addiction sort of idea. When I was writing that's really a lot of where this is coming from, is like this idea that it's like it is going to rebound upon itself. So if you resist this thing, it's going to become even more powerful.
Yeah, because it has nowhere to go. You're shoving it somewhere, and it's just it's that you're not allowing it to be open. And I don't know, it's interesting where fear hides. I mean, I realized, recently somewhere that I didn't even realize that was a fear. It didn't feel like a fear, not the way I'm used to. It was very subtle. And, just what are you afraid of? And, it's something that kept you safe at some point in time. That behavior keeps you safe. I mean, my background coming from it was an alcoholic family, and there was a lot of violence, and there was a lot of all the things. And I'm an active person. So, if you're standing in line, I'm the bouncer that if you're wobbling a little, you don't even get in. That's how I filter, this active, recepting kind of person. And, there's always something to do. There's always something to, try to stop and not let in. And, it was interesting. Things get in when you're reading Melissa, that verse. Things get in anyway, And so being able to step back a little bit and not always just filter and allow, and do something is a huge thing for me. And now that I do that a little bit, and then a little bit more and a little bit more, I'm starting to see myself a little clearer. Now, clarity is a paradox in itself, But I think that's the difference. Like you trying to learn this, for me, is trying to learn this behavior, and that behavior always kept me safe. But what am I staying safe from now? That's not a danger anymore. But our bodies still react in that same way. And if you never allow that to change in your mind, you get stuck and you just stand still. Well, I did anyway.
And I think that's what this verse means when it says, where armies march, briers grow, and in their wake follows hunger and villainy. That hunger and villainy, when you're talking about things of this nature, what we're addressing is that in the wake of all that resistance, in the wake of all that violence, in the wake of all that judgment, you're barren for a time. There's no nutrition, right? And then there's that villainy, and that villainy can come as victimization. That villainy can come as, those lies we tell ourselves so that it's okay that we are in this space. When we're okay that we're in this space anyway, but because we're experiencing this hunger and villainy in the wake of our own judgments, and we know that we contributed to that, we want to defend ourselves. We want to stand up for ourselves. We want to say that, no, it's not me. And that's why this is all about don't dominate. Allow that thought. Don't resist it. Take it in as the experience that you're having. And then at the end, it's all about the master. The master achieves her goal and then stops. The goal is to stop marching those armies. Stop judging. Yes, you're going to experience this barren time where you're hungry for nutrition and still bitter. And but it also says neither forcing nor manipulating further. Allow yourself to integrate. Allow yourself to shift from this moment to the next. Allow yourself to grow into that. She knows that dominating, trying to control this thought, your thoughts, your actions, all of these things, goes counter to Tao. So Tao is taking you through this. It just is uncomfortable.
Exactly. And once you are able to see that, and then, that fear dissipates, because it's not a matter of keeping yourself safe anymore. You start being able to see, and you allow it then to die, right? It dies early. And that's how that's the last part of this one?
Yeah, and whatever opposes Tao will certainly die early.
And, you could look at that as, and I've always looked at it as a negative, but it is, right? Non-dual, because there's also the positive side of that, because that kind of gives you hope, and that you can really let go of that, that I can change, and I can grow, and I can mature, and I can move past this discomfort. It's going to change, and it will be whatever you want it to be. We were talking about one yesterday, and the depth of the, depth or shallow, whatever you want it to be. It can be whatever you want. And that's just such a beautiful idea that, it's going to die early. This too shall pass. So I don't know.
This too shall pass.
That's a good verse. I like it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
All right. Love you. Bye.
Love you. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna also, it was something that JK said, where it's just, and I want to read another verse. I'm going to read number 60, and then we'll sign out. And it was interesting because she reminded me of number 60, and I didn't recall that 60 is also about governing. So we start governing in any capacity when led by Tao, and that was number 30 that JK chose. And while we were talking, I was thinking, she's addressing a lot of things that are also mentioned in number 60. Let me go to that and let me kind of read over it really quick. And so I opened up 60, and it's entitled Combating Evil. And we have to also understand, even though the word evil is in the title, Tao doesn't distinguish good and evil, right? There's, but ultimately we're looking at, and it is talking about combating, and we already read in number 30 this idea. So violence, so combating anything, however it is intended, will rebound upon oneself. So let's look at what number 60 has to say and relate it to all the things that we've been talking about today. When governing anything, use restraint. And again, it is just telling us, use restraint. Don't do too much. And it says, treat it like cooking a small bit of fish. Getting it perfect takes less than you think. And it says over here in 30, governing in any capacity when led by Tao doesn't use force to gain power. Don't try and force it. Don't use restraint. If you don't use restraint, you're going to march your armies, and you're going to have to deal with the hunger and villainy that comes in their wake. This number 60 continues, centering all things in Tao, evil, with nothing to oppose, returns to a state of illusion. See, that's just telling you the thing that you thought was evil isn't evil at all. It was an illusion. All harm dissipates in the face of those who know their true selves. And that's the kind of icing on the cake there. It's like all you have to do, and this is something we were talking about with Melissa, is know your true self. Know who you are. Don't be, and this goes back to 56 when we started this conversation an hour ago. Goes back to that when we were talking about the idea of knowing who you are in the face of all of this. Learn to be silent. Blunt your sarcasm. Don't be swayed by the things that are going on around you. Be who you are completely. And don't allow people to manipulate you into thinking that you're any less. Know that you're perfect. Know that you're here as and valuable to all of those things around you. And all harm dissipates in the face of those who know their true selves. This has been a beautiful episode. If you guys didn't get to hear the whole thing, it's all really encapsulated in all these 56, 43, 30, and 60 all really work together very nicely in saying this. And I'm sure that is always the case, but it seems to be especially present today. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I'm Martin John. If you like and appreciate the work that I'm doing here on Noom Vibe and with Tao of the Day, please consider supporting this show. You can check out the links in my profile. You can go to my Linktree and support this show through Venmo or Buy Me a Coffee. You can go to my website and support me through Buy Me a Coffee. If you're interested in the text that we read here on Tao of the Day, you can pick up a copy of my Tao through my website or through the links in my Linktree. I appreciate you guys so much for being here. I'm here every day, 6 a.m. Central Time. It usually goes for an hour, sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more. Life is easy. Love you guys. And until next time, keep recovering yourself.